And I divided this talk in two parts. So the first is really where I want to retrace a little bit this transition. And the second part is maybe about changing the world with data visualization. Well, it's just showing you two selected examples of my work. One which is a little bit older, one which is quite new. And I want to, I try to show you with these examples why I transitioned and why data visualization is such a passion for me. So well, let's start in 2014, and Helena already said it. I started with bacteria when I started my PhD in the SIBA lab in Munich. And it's quite cool to see some of my old friends that followed along this path in Munich here in the audience. Welcome to you as well. And what we did there in the SIBA lab, we worked with bacteria, and we worked with compounds, with chemical compounds that were designed to be antivirulent. So this is like an alternative antibiotic strategy. You know that we have the problem with antibiotics, that they kill bacteria, and so they have a very high selection pressure, so that bacteria are really quick in evading the antibiotics. And we had, and also others had, the idea that it might be better to not kill the bacteria and just to disarm them. And this is what we did a lot of research in. And yeah, it was quite exciting. It was a really cool time during my PhD. And also during the PhD, I did more and more bioinformatics, because we worked a lot with the mass spectrometry technologies, or with proteomics, because we wanted to have the full view on the bacterial proteome, what is going on in these bacteria when we treat them with small molecules. The paper that Helena showed in the beginning is just one output of that, where we found a small molecule that activated a protease within the bacteria that then led to their disarmament. So that was quite cool. And the bioinformatics part was really important here, because such mass spectrometers, they produce a huge amount of data. And at that time, we just analyzed the tip of the iceberg here. And there was so much more information in the data that we couldn't see. And so we developed scripts and new methods to mine these data sets. And as I was always interested in coding, even before my biochemical studies, this was really a little bit like back to the roots, back to my childhood roots, where I coded a lot. And so I had the possibility to use my coding skills also in the lab. And yeah, that was really cool. And in the end, I had this dissertation about chemical protein manipulations and how we can see them in the proteomics data. And if we have a look into my dissertation, these are just some of the figures I did. And this is showing here now this protease, which is called ClipP, which almost all bacteria have, and which is a little bit like the trash can of bacteria, where all the unused proteins go. But also it has a regulatory function, so it can selectively degrade proteins as well. And yeah, we studied the structure, we studied the proteomics, and it was always big fun for me to make then these figures, because with the figures, you have then the door to your audience in the research community, where you can show, okay, this is what we did. And it's very easy to explain, of course, complicated things, complicated facts. And this is just another picture where we always try to really condense a lot of information into the figure panels. And I guess you all know that how it works. And at that time, I didn't really know that I'm very passionate about data visualization. I still wanted to focus a little bit more on the bioinformatics side of life, because I had the feeling that I learned bioinformatics by doing. And I then thought, well, it might be good to be in contact with some professional bioinformaticians and to learn all the cool tricks. And so I had a look a little bit around in Europe where I can study bioinformatics a bit more for my postdoc. And I came across a really cool research group in Stockholm, Sweden. And so in 2018, I switched countries and moved to Stockholm, where I joined Janne Letjö's proteomics group at the Karolinska Institute there. And I think for two reasons, this was a really good choice. So first was the group itself. So it was really cool to work within the group. They were quite closely connected to the clinicians. So we had contact with patients, we got blood from there, and we worked on several types of cancer. And my specific research was on childhood leukemia, for example. And it was really close to the people, to the patients, and to the decisions the physicians took, and so on. So that was the first reason, I think, why Sweden was a good choice. And the second reason is that I think the whole country, Sweden, they have such a special culture. They don't have a work-life balance, they have a life-work balance, I would say, and they definitely know how to balance out between these two things. And this made me think a lot about myself, about what I'm happy about, what I'm passionate about. And yeah, I think with the months in Sweden, I more and more learned, well, data visualization is really interesting for me. And of course, also there in the group, I did a lot of data visualizations. This is now exemplary a little bit for all the things I did there. We always experimented with different chart types, with the combination of these chart types. And yeah, all the visualizations we usually did, they were not only for papers, but also for the clinicians, and all of them were just coded for the browser. They were interactive. And I hope that in a few days you can see a lot of them also in a publication that will come out soon. And yeah, and then I more and more learned, well, DataVis is really a thing for me. And I was quite fascinated about it because I saw that we do a lot of bench work, we do a lot of analysis, we do so mass spec analysis, but also data analysis. But only when you do the data visualization, then you can really see the results of your research. And this is also, yeah, this was important for me and for our group, that yeah, usually the data visualizations are key to the breakthroughs in your research process. And also when you want to communicate your research, it's data visualization that does the communication. So that really fascinated me. And at the same time, I thought, well, my research is quite a bit abstract, even though there was a quite close connection to the clinicians and to the patients and all that. I found the things we find out, they were really abstract and hard to communicate, and maybe not interesting to the majority of people outside there. And with that, I also thought that, yeah, my research results, they are just too far away from people's lives. And I know this could be totally different. It was just an experience that I personally had. And together with this personal hype for data visualization, I looked a little bit outside of the box. And then I found, well, there is quite a lot of people doing data visualization as their daily job. So there are professional data vis designers. And I think one of the first ones I came across was Martin Lamprecht, who is a data journalist doing really great things, working, for example, for large organizations like the UN, and they do data communication. And this is then seen by so many people and really affecting these people. And I saw other people like Moritz Stefana, who I worked with later on, who is also one of the big data visualization guys in Germany and worldwide. And this was quite eye-opening to me, because so far I felt, well, I'm passionate about DataVis, but I didn't know that this is really a thing that you can do professionally. And the more I looked after these people, the more I found, and then I saw their work, and they wrote blog posts, and I was yeah, really fascinated by that. And then I started doing my own data visualizations on data that I found in the internet, for example. And the last thing then was that I discovered a podcast, which is DataVis Today by Ellie Torben. And Ellie is a really cool person. She's also a DataVis designer, and she's talking about her daily struggles, about her tips, about how to become a freelance DataVis designer, and also about the nitty-gritty details of certain visualization types and all kind of that. And while I was listening to one of the episodes of DataVis Today, I really realized that data visualization combines the math and the data and the analysis and the statistics with art and design. And it also connects then the person doing the data viz with all the people in the audience, because the data viz designer, he or she is asking questions, and or the audience is asking questions, and the designer tries to answer then these questions. And I found this is really interesting, because besides the math and the data, the design and the art, you need then different tools like programming languages to make use of the human psychology, how we understand data viz, to communicate information and to really create knowledge in people. And this was really yeah, it was, I don't know, it was like on one day I realized this, and then I thought, well, it would be a shame if I wouldn't try to be a professional data viz designer in my life, so I just have to try it. And of course, the whole process, I think, took 1 year when I realized that data viz is a passion, until I then decided to found my own data viz studio, to eventually leave academia and to go full-time on data visualization. And this was in 2020, where I founded my visualization studio Hiksch, which is a word that my daughter invented. It's a combination of hübsch and schick, so like nice and pretty, maybe in English. And this is, I thought, well, all my visualizations should be Hiksch, so that's where the name comes from. And then I just started to acquire projects all over the world, which was easier than I thought before. But first, when you start a freelance company in Germany, you have to fill out a lot of paperwork, of course. But then if you made that, you can really start and create data visualizations for all types of clients. And at that time, I really felt very free, because I was not reduced anymore to biological data. I do not have to use the data that I had in my research, but now I could go to various clients and say, hey, you have this data, can I visualize it? Or later on then, when you have a little bit of popularity, of course, the clients come to you, which was then really cool. And then they say, oh, we have this and that, but we really don't know how to visualize it, how to communicate this to our audience, to the people out there. And then, yeah, I always felt really encouraged in my decision to go down this path when I interacted with the clients, and then when we had the end product, and we could really see the feedback and see what it makes with the people out there. And finally, so after I worked, I don't know, it was, I think, 9 months as a freelance data viz designer, I got in contact with Ferdi Kuchelmeier from Der Spiegel, and he's leading the graphics and interactive department there. And well, he just asked me if I would like to come with him on this journey to transform Der Spiegel to a more digital magazine, and to transform all the data viz storytelling that they have. And of course, this was a chance that I definitely took, because when I was a freelancer, of course, I could fully live my passion of data visualization. But what I also wanted when I left academia is I wanted to reach many people. And with this platform, with one of the largest news magazines in Germany, yeah, this was an incredible chance to get on there. And so since summer last year in 2021, I am now co-leading the graphics and interactives department at Der Spiegel in Hamburg. And here you can see me. I think this was just when I was 5 or 6 weeks working there. We managed to get some very small BioVis on the cover page, which was quite cool. But just for you that you might not know, Der Spiegel, so we are the largest print magazine in Germany. So we still produce print magazines, 700,000 per week. But we have also one of the top 5 news sites in Germany, where we have around 23 million unique visitors per month. And within this whole organization, I think there are 500-600 journalists. We are 20 people in the graphics and interactives department. There are graphics editors, designers, developers, journalists. So it's a wild mix of different competencies and skills, which is quite cool. And of course, we are at a very important position in the magazine right now, because you all know that the print numbers are going down and the online subscriptions should go up. And this is exactly our task now. And I think we are performing quite well right now, but let's see how it goes in future. Well, so this is just showing you a little bit my path from bench to the news side, basically. And what I want to do next is I want to go through 2 different projects that I did since 2020. And one of the projects, the first one, is one that I did as a freelance BioVis designer. This is a project that I got roughly 4 months after I started with freelancing. And it is about journalism and journalists in Iran. And there is an organization which is called Journalism is Not a Crime. This is an organization which consists of Iranian journalists and activists that live in exile. The organization itself is based in London. And they have a large list of almost 900 people, of Iranian journalists or social media activists that are not able to speak anymore in Iran. So they are in prison, they live in exile, they are awaiting trial, or they are even killed by the government of Iran. And they have this website and they just show the numbers, and they were a little bit worried and said, well, we have this list with all the people, with all these individual stories inside. But yeah, nobody's looking at it. And the reason, of course, is that communication is missing, that maybe data visualization is missing. And so I got the task to have a look at this list and to see how to visualize this, these individual stories, but also a little bit the statistics. So how many people are there, what profession do they have, and so on. And one of the first steps I then always do is I look for inspiration, because data visualization works really, really well when you have analogies, when you have metaphors, when you bring some emotion into your data visualization. And when I scrolled through the list and I saw all these Persian names and read a few of their stories, I immediately thought of how does it look like there in Iran. So I immediately thought of the typical Persian architecture with all these colorful tiles and rosettes and geometrical shapes. And then I thought, well, it would be cool to visualize each of these people as a unique tile that has some unique shape or unique color. And then maybe we can arrange it as rosettes and other geometrical shapes. And this is what I eventually did in the end. So I produced this visualizing censorship in Iran page, and I just switched to my browser so to show you this as a live interactive visualization. And here you can already see different rosettes where each of these tiles is really one journalist, or here one social media activist. Here are also artists in. And the color does tell you something about who is pursuing these journalists. So for example, there is the Ministry of Intelligence behind them. There is some other intelligence behind them, and so on. You can, for example, here in this compilation, see a little bit of statistics in the data set. You can see that the RRGC intelligence is following the social media activists much more than it is for the journalists, and so on. But still, the challenge was, well, how to show now the different statistics that are in there, because we have much more information. We also have the gender of these people. We have their current status, so where they live or where they are. And also another challenge, which is showing the individual stories behind, because all these numbers here and abstract tiles, they do not really tell us about the people that are behind. So it's not just numbers, it's really individual stories that we have behind there. And so the statistics challenge is a little bit solved by that the audience can click through different arrangements here. So for example, with these yellow diamonds, you can change the color. So here now you see for this arrangement, how many male and female people there are in. And you can also change the arrangement. For example, I can change with these white squares now, the arrangement to the investigating institutions. And so you can really play a little bit as a user with the statistics and explore the data on your own. And then for the second challenge, when you hover over these little tiles, you already see a short biography. And you get a little bit of information about the person behind the tile, also when we had it with the little photo, so that you already here on that level, you get the feeling, okay, this is not just tiles, this is real persons behind. But if you want to dive then a level deeper, you can click on it and then you get the individual biography of these people here. And this little bit bridges the gap between the statistics and the individual stories, which is, as and I say this now as a database designer, this is quite important, because we humans are really bad in statistics, but we can understand the stories behind. Then we get very emotional and we get very affected by a data visualization. So this is important here. And well, this was one of my first projects, and when we published this, it was really mind-blowing to see all the reactions on Twitter or personal emails that I or the client got. And I think we really succeeded in the end to bring this data set to the people. And this is exactly what I wanted to do when I started my DataVis career. So taking data that nobody's looking at and produce a DataVis that is an entry point to a data set to let people explore the data and to really get the people affected by the data. Yeah, so this was now one project that I did as a freelancer. And as a second project, that maybe also shows a little bit why I chose this path of data visualization and why I'm so passionate maybe about it. I want to show you another project which I did at the news magazine at Der Spiegel in the end of last year. And this is a chart that in the one or the other shape everyone knows right now. This is in German because I wanted to show you an original Der Spiegel chart. This is no special chart. This is just showing the daily deaths by coronavirus through the pandemic. And yeah, this is just showing a 7-day average and the actual numbers. And you can see that, for example, in January last year, there were a lot of deaths and we had a very bad wave here, and now we are rising again. And here it's the same problem with statistics, of course, because people have seen this chart since 2 years now, almost. And yeah, they are looking at it maybe every day because each of the major news pages, they have it on their website. We even have it on the homepage. So you see it if you go to spiegel.de directly. And people are really numb about it because they cannot imagine what it means that, for example, in January last year, there were more than 1,000 deaths on a single day. It's just, okay, it is like that. So that's the statistics, but there is no feeling associated to it. And that's, again, this is a phenomenon which is called psychic numbing. So yeah, we cannot really feel emotions with such large numbers. And we also think that these numbers are really far away. Maybe some of us know someone who died of coronavirus, but there are a lot of people who do not know anyone. And there are also people, of course, neglecting that there are deaths by coronavirus. But most of the people, just looking at it, they are not affected by this chart. And it's maybe used for political decisions. Maybe yes, but also politicians, I think, are not affected emotionally that largely anymore by these charts. And in the end of last year, we had a situation in Germany that we surpassed 100,000 deaths. And we thought, well, this is now maybe a date that we could use to retell this story about the coronavirus deaths in Germany. And it was really a little challenge for us, because we thought, well, when we want to show something about these 100,000 deaths, of course, we could visit families that lost a son or daughter or mother or father, but that was quite hard. And actually, Der Spiegel already did it a few months earlier. And so we thought, okay, we have to do maybe something data-driven, but maybe something which is really emotional, even though it just uses data. And this is what we come up with. And for that, I just switch again to my browser to show you this in real life. So what we did is basically a map of Germany. And we had the information where all these 100,000 deaths were registered, so at the county level. And we also had the information when these deaths were registered. And so we thought, why not letting our audience, our readers, scroll through the history of the coronavirus deaths in Germany? And so we put this Germany map in the center. We had here a counter to deaths in the beginning at the first register date. And we highlighted the first 2 deaths here. And then we had, I'm just scrolling now, we had these little overlays where you can see a little bit of background information, sometimes also personal information about some of the persons who died. And here at the bottom, we had the curve that I just showed you on the slides, which is the death curves, which is now going until November 2021. This was the date when we published this story. And by scrolling, you are now moving on this curve here. And every time there is a new death, you see it directly on the map. So I'm just scrolling down a little bit. So you can see I'm now in the mid of April. We have some more background information so that people can remember, well, yeah, that was April 2020 when we talked about, I don't know, the parties in Austria where so many people got infected. And then you can really see and feel when you scroll that always when you have one of these white dots, one people is dying. And of course, you see more dots in the largely populated regions like Berlin or Hamburg here. And yeah, you scroll and scroll and you can see, because you usually are scrolling uniformly, you can see, okay, now was summer 2020, there was not that high corona numbers, but now in the winter period, when the second wave stroke, you can really see, wow, well, there's a lot of people now dying. And this is obviously counting up until November 2021, when it reached 100,000 death in Germany. And yeah, just scrolling this through. Oops. And in the end, yes, now it's jump back because I have my magic Apple mouse misused. And in the end, you can see that the map is covered with 100,000 white dots, each dot standing for one dead person. So here with the geo information, we tell the people looking at this visualization, hey, there is something going on right in front of your door, right in front in your town. And by connecting the time axis to the scrolling, we leave the control of the visualization, the control over the number of deaths to the user themselves. And yeah, this is something which really made the trick, because people then say, okay, there is this standard statistics curve here at the bottom that we all know, but there is actually real people behind everyone visualized with one of these dots. And I think this is really something that, again, illustrates the power of data visualization, and why I am so passionate about it, because with such simple tricks, by combining the data with some design and encountering also the human psychology, so how we work in perceiving these data visualizations, you can tell really strong visual stories and really do something with the people that see such visualizations, which is also power that we need to be careful about. But I think Der Spiegel has a quite good reputation on that, and we have a lot of security loops to go through until we publish something like that. Yeah, and then afterwards we published that. It was quite interesting for us to see, did it work? Did we really reach the people with such an old topic, 2 years or 1.5 years into Corona deaths, and now refreshing this data again, showing a different perspective. And when we then looked in the comments, so you can comment these articles, but you can also write letters to the editor, for example, and it just took out some of the answers and translated them. And you can, for example, see this one here, my fingers are sore from scrolling, which means they are interested to scroll because they want to see what's coming next, but they really feel that they generate more deaths on their screen, and that these deaths then are really burned into the screen. And yeah, so I usually like to scroll. So this scrolling thing really worked out, it seems, in the end. And this visualization really made people think again about the numbers. So what does it mean when we have, I don't know, 500, 600 dead people per day? What does this really mean? How does it look like if we could look at Germany like that? And I think that's the whole power of data visualization, when you connect the statistics with some emotions to the personal stories behind the data. And this is exactly why I chose this career path, why I became a data visualization designer. I wanted to use all these different skills, combine them to really reach people, and yes, hopefully to change the world a little bit to the better in the end. And with that, I thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to go into the discussion to answer questions or to discuss a little bit with you. Thanks.